Hi, I'm Maya, and today I want to talk about Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. So, I had heard that this book was way different from Emily Henry's other books, and that is true. It's definitely very different, but I still loved it. I think it gives you everything you want from an Emily Henry book, plus other things that you didn't know you wanted, because it's not just a romance between a couple, there is a third person involved, the person that our two leads are interviewing for her memoir. And so to me, when I first started reading this book, it felt a lot like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I actually struck by how similar it was, just in interviewing a celebrity and hearing their life story. A celebrity at the end of her life who's looking back on her past and wanting to share all the secrets that she never did. An eager journalist who wants to write the whole story down into a book. Yeah, very similar basic plot, but of course also very different. So I think there was only like one time in the book where we were in the interview process, like learning more about the celebrity's history and family history. Her name is Margaret. There was only one time when we were with Margaret that I really was wishing we would just go back to the couple, because I think for the most part, Emily Henry was good at pacing it out well and like having good spots to go back and forth. But there's this one point where I was like, no, I really don't care about what's happening with Margaret. Like, something big just happened with Hayden and Alice, and I want to get back to that. I want to see them grow as a couple. So yeah, just that once that I felt like that. But other than that, I felt like it was divided well. So spoiler alert, is this the first book where there's a baby at the end, where the main couple has a baby? I can't remember. I need to reread the other books. When she has her baby, so relatable. I was crying. So emotional and powerful. So another thing I loved was that we get a reference to the characters from People We Meet on Vacation. And so that's always fun when there's a nod to the other characters in the Emily Henry universe. I love thinking about all of these books being connected and happening in the same world, and the characters maybe like brushing paths or at least knowing a little bit about each other, or just being to the same places that other people have been to, other characters have been to, which is what happens in this book. And yeah, it's just really cool, and I hope she continues to do that in her other books. So there was a whole section, like a big part of the plot is about a cult, and that was surprisingly dark, and I was really impressed that Emily Henry could actually write something so heavy, because of course she's handled heavier topics before in her other books, but this was the first time that it felt like really serious, like really delving into like the psychology and the trauma of being a part of a cult. I think I was just surprised, impressed, and just, yeah, really blown away with Emily Henry's talent and skill. I think she was proving that she can go on to other genres if she chooses. She doesn't have to just be a romance novelist, even though she's really good at that. I love watching authors try new things, take risks, experiment, and I think it really paid off for Emily Henry in this book. Okay, so our two leads, Hayden and Alice, are super cute together. They're a cute couple. And I really liked the Darcy-esque nature of Hayden. He really felt like Mr. Darcy, just grumpy and gruff and cold and a rough exterior, but then once you learn more about him, you learn that he's not trying to be rude. There's different things going on in his head, and that he's actually a really genuine, down-to-earth person. So that's a fun archetype in literature, always, and especially in this book. Because Alice starts out thinking that he's grumpy and harsh and scowling, but then she realizes that he's really just thinking, and he's really sweet deep down. So I dog-eared a couple of lines, and I just want to read those real quick. And holding her little sister's hand, running as fast as they could from the edge of the pool, convinced that if only they were fast enough, worked hard enough, they could sail right across the surface of the water without sinking. She still thinks about this day a lot as a kind of before picture, the last golden day. After that, the world turned blue, as if when she dove under the surface of the water, the cool tones had washed across her eyes and never left. The truth was, Margaret wasn't sure she knew precisely what love was. Sometimes she lay awake late at night, thinking about the word until it came apart like bits of alphabet soup, the letters drifting off in opposite directions and the meaning lost somewhere in the gaps. Margaret felt as if the story of her life had been written onto a piece of paper she'd only just now realized had been folded in half. Now it was open, a full second half of a page appearing abruptly, with a sharp crease dividing this new chapter from what came before. And this last line I want to read is actually the line that is printed on the cover without the dust jacket. So I'll read it first and then I'll show you what it looks like naked. Thank you. Laura reached out to take Margaret's hand and she smiled. It was brief and it was beautiful. So this is what it looks like. So when I first saw that, when I first got the book, this is the Barnes & Noble version. I don't think every version has this on it, but the Barnes & Noble version does. Anyway, when I first saw this, I was wondering what that meant, like what the significance of this was. And so when I came across that line reading, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because yeah, the scene I just read, the line I just read, is when Margaret goes to rescue her sister, Laura, from the cult. Their connection, they're holding hands, you know, physically connected, but also emotionally connected. And, you know, that sisterly bond, that sibling bond that can never go away. That brief feeling of closeness after being separated for so long. It was brief, but it was a beautiful moment. And it's obviously very significant to Margaret, and that she still remembers it all these years later. It's like burned into her brain. Oh yeah, the inside's cute too, with the gingham. Just a perfect summery looking book. Summertime. I'm really glad that the main character Alice got some closure with her mother, because that tense relationship was making me feel like, ugh, the whole book. I was like, okay, we need to get some stuff out in the open. You guys need to talk and work through some things. And when they finally did, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is the cover. It's a sunrise or a sunset. See the sun there and then the colors. And so I just want to talk about how that relates to the main theme, because there is a theme of inevitability. And Margaret has this universal maze that always leads back to the same spot. No matter which path you take, you're always going to end up in the same spot. And that's a huge theme in the book. Margaret feels like her life is like that, like being born into a celebrity family. She didn't really have a choice in how her life would play out. Marrying a celebrity, you know, so many decisions were kind of made for her that she felt like she never was a true agent for herself. Like she didn't really have her own agency. Then Hayden and Alice talk about this too, this concept of fate. Like, is fate real? Is it all about our choices and our decisions? Or are there some things that are out of our control? Does life just happen to us, or do we make certain things happen? Like really deep, heavy philosophical stuff. Like I'm so impressed that Emily Henry was discussing this, and I hope she keeps talking about like big, deep things like this in her future books, because she's really good at it. Yes, but so what I wanted to say about that, how it relates back to the theme, the cover. It's a sunrise or a sunset, and the sunrise and the sunset are inevitable. Like we can't control them. No matter what we do, no matter if we've had the best day of our life or the worst day of our life, the next day, the sun's going to rise in the morning and it's going to set in the evening, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's out of your control. But what you can do is choose to stop and admire the beautiful colors. And I think that is such a good reminder of how to go through life, that yes, there are some things that are out of your control, and sometimes it does feel like life is just happening to you. But there are instances where you can take the reins, you can take control, and you can choose to stop and listen and appreciate and admire and absorb everything that life has to offer, and to not be so obsessed with control. Accept the fact that life is great and big and beautiful and complicated, and the good and the bad, the ugly and the pretty, everything all wrapped in one. And you just have to embrace that. And Alice talks about sunrises in one part of the book. She talks about how that bright pink color that comes in a sunrise or a sunset is so silly and so astonishing, and it just strikes you like, how can that color, that hot pink color, like actually occur in nature? It just kind of like takes your breath away. And I love that, and I want to apply that to my own life. I really appreciated how optimistic Alice was, how she was always trying to look on the bright side of things and be positive. I'm just really impressed with Emily Henry, and I really enjoyed this book. Thank you so much for watching.